Hey fellow knitters, it's Janet with knittingpatternsforbeginners.com. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today we're going to learn in this video how to do the simple seed stitch, or in your patterns it's abbreviated most of the time with an S as in Sam, D as in dog, and then a space, and then S as in Sam, T as in Tom. Seed stitch. And what the seed stitch is just a combination of knitting and purling, the knit and purl stitches. So go ahead and pause your video and cast on 10 stitches, and then meet me back here and let's seed stitch. Okay, you've got your 10 stitches on. I'm using again my number 6 needles and my worsted weight yarn number 4. Okay, let's get started. What we're going to do is we've got 10 stitches, so we're just going to do a knit and a purl and repeat that over those 10 stitches. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Okay, so we've done 10 stitches and we started with a knit stitch, we purled, knit, purl, and so on to the end. And our last stitch would be the purl stitch. Another way to keep track is that the even stitches in this particular example are purled and the odd stitches are knitted. And this is what the seed stitch looks like. It has like these nice little bumps on it. It's really great for borders. It's great for just waistbands, things like this. This is actually going to be a baby pattern. It's an overall pattern that I'm working on. But this is the seed stitch right here, and you could see it. It's next to the stockinette stitch. So see the texture? Really cool, right? Okay. Now in order to get that texture, we have to do on the next row, we have to do the opposite of what is there, or what we did previously. So remember, when we turn our work over, even though we did a purl stitch on our last stitch was a purl stitch, okay, here on our beginning row it's a knit stitch here. So what you have to do is you have to do the opposite in order to make it work. So here we've got a knit stitch, so we want to do a purl stitch. Here we have a purl stitch, so we want to do a knit stitch. So it's whatever the stitch is that you're looking at, it's the opposite of that stitch. So instead of starting here, because we have an even number, instead of starting with the knit stitch, we're actually starting with the purl stitch. So here we have a purl, so we're going to knit. And here we have a knit, so we're going to purl. We're just going to keep going. Since, like I said, we have an even number of stitches, we're just doing the opposite of what we did in the previous row. We're starting with a purl stitch instead of the knit stitch. There we go. So if we would turn our work, see how that's coming out? If we would turn our work and do our next row, we would have to start with the knit stitch because that's a purl, so purl knit. So when you see in a pattern continue on with the seed stitch or SD, ST, that's exactly what you need to do. A lot of patterns are written with odd numbers so that you always start with the knit stitch, but it doesn't matter because sometimes you'll be decreasing and increasing, so you just want to understand what you're doing, and all you're doing is the opposite of the stitch that you see on the row that you're knitting. So here we would start with a knit and we would purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Or I'm sorry, excuse me, knit, purl, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Well, that's right. Okay. All right. So that's how we would do it. Okay. All right. Thanks for stopping by. And don't forget that you can check out our patterns, our knitting patterns for beginners at knittingpatternsforbeginners.com. Thanks again and have a great day.